and welcome in. There's no crying in fantasy. My name is Sean, and then we have the OG in the house for tonight, Mr. AJ. How's
You
it
already
going,
know.
AJ?
Man, everything's going good, Sean. Everything is going good. It's a nice little switch up to, join the There's No Crying in Fantasy for week 11.
Yeah, man, you know how we keep it around here. I think it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm still salty that FSU beat LSU week one, but that's okay. Uh,
I wore it just for you. I
I
wore it
know you
just for
did.
you.
I know you did. I was like, damn, man, he's really rubbing it in. But
Hey,
that's okay.
it's only right. It's only right.
Hey, y'all won fair and square. I can't say anything about it. Uh, but yeah, let's get into it, man. Week 11, right? Week 11, fantasy football. We're starting to get down to almost playoff time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people need to be accurate with their starts and their sits here. We've been chiming in the last 3 weeks. Uh, so let's go ahead and start with our number one start. I don't know if you want to go first.
Man, it's your show, man. I'm gonna let you do the honors.
Hey, look, one start. Jordan Love, Packers. Um,
Okay.
let's see. I should have had it pulled up before I even mentioned them.
Uh,
Jordan Love playing against the Chargers this week. That's why I did choose him. The Chargers is one of the worst pass defenses in the league. We've been mentioning it quite a few every week. Uh, Jordan Love, 18 points last week against Pittsburgh, 13 points the week before, 15, and then 16. So, I mean, he's been pretty consistent. I think if this is going to be the week where he's going to go above his average, I think this is the week he's going to do it against the Chargers. Going up against Justin Herbert, this could be a kind of a shootout here. Uh, Romeo Dobbs might be the main connection. I don't know if Watson's going to play or not, but yeah,
right.
give me Jordan Love. He's my quarterback start of the week. He's my only quarterback start of the week on my list here. Uh, but yeah, Jordan Love versus the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm thinking he might get about 20 to 25 points here. Uh, yeah, man, I think he's going to be QB5 of the
Okay.
week. QB top five.
All right. So my quarterback start of the week is actually going to be somebody that I'm actually trying to get a big piece of their offense. So if you have anybody on this team, I'm saying, hey, try and get in on this, and that's going to be Jared Goff, man. He's going against the Bears. I definitely feel like he's in for a really big game against the Bears. He's coming off a really good performance last week. He went over 300 yards, got you 2 touchdowns, and I believe he got 25 points. So I think he's definitely in for another big week this week against the Bears. It's a divisional game, but the Bears have been struggling, and so this is one of those offenses that you want to get a piece of.
For sure. And then not to mention like everybody on the lines is going off. I mean, David
Absolutely.
Montgomery, Jameer Gibbs, Ahmad State Brown, so I mean he Sam Laporta. I mean, the
Hmm.
weapons is crazy in Detroit. I wish I could say the same for James Williams,
Hmm.
but that's not happening. But yeah, I like that a lot. In Chicago, their defense is sort of average. I don't know the pass defense off the top of my head. Uh, I know their run defense is pretty stout, but I do like Jared Goff. That's a good pick there, and he's on a hot streak right now.
Yeah, and I think with the Bears passing defense, they've definitely been very, very susceptible this season. They've been one of those teams that have been giving up yards, in abundance. So I think having Jared Goff with that offense, I think they will definitely be able to, get a lot of points out of them. So I think this is going to be one of those games. The only thing that I would say let's be weary of is if it gets ugly quick and then they start taking their foot off the gas. That's the only thing that really worries me sometimes, about these matchups. But the Bears they've given up the third most passing yards this season. So
Wow.
they're 100% a liability in that pass defense, and they've definitely been scored on quite a lot. And so I think that's just the perfect marriage for what the Lions want to do, and through the air and also on the ground. So I think, like I said, if you have the opportunity to get any pieces of some of these top guys on that offense, let's do it.
Absolutely. And we went NFC North on that one. Two
Yeah.
quarterback starts, NFC North. Let's get into the sit here. The quarterback sits. Man, I know Hill might look at me a little crazy on this one. I love talking about his Cowboys here. I'm not Stephen A. Smith though, but I'm sitting Dak Prescott, dude. That's who I'm gonna sit. I'm sitting Dak Prescott, and you would think, they're playing against the Carolina Panthers, right? But Carolina's pass defense, they're the second best pass defense in the last 3 games, and I believe they're top 10 of the year. If you go back to every quarterback they played, I'm not too sure if one quarterback has scored over 20 fantasy points this year against Carolina. It might have been one or two, but it hasn't been very many. So I'm sitting Dak Prescott surprisingly,
Oh.
and yeah, and I think that is a fire take here, and I would like to see Hill comment on that one, but I'm sitting Dak. I'm sitting Dak.
Okay. I'm not 100% sure I agree, but we'll talk about that later. The Panthers actually have been pretty good throughout with their pass defense, but I do believe some of that has to, play into account their schedule and, some of those things that have gone with it. My quarterback that I'm going to be sitting actually is going to be Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence he's been kind of up and down this season. He has had his issues this year. And the Titans, even though this hasn't been the season that they expected or that they wanted, they still get after the quarterback. They still make things difficult. And so I think with that pressure that they can put on Trevor Lawrence, I think it can kind of get him off of his spot, get him out of the pocket, and kind of lead him into making some tougher throws than normal. And so I think that this may be a game that they might, end up leaning on Travis Etienne a little bit. But I'm not sure how, Trevor Lawrence will be when it comes to trying to actually air this thing out and really putting up fantasy numbers. He may get the win, but I think this is going to be one of those ugly games.
Yeah, Trevor has been low key struggling a little bit lately. I don't blame your start there. It's a division game against Tennessee. It's the first time they meet. Tennessee's going to be desperate. Uh, their defense is normally pretty solid. I agree. I think they're going to lean on ETN a lot. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty good sit. Trevor Lawrence, he only mustered out 4 points against San Francisco. You know, he
That
might
was
be
nasty.
pretty. It was gross, and he might be pretty beat up too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah, I'm not starting Trevor Lawrence. That's for damn sure. Um,
100%, man.
and I'm not too sure. Besides ETN, I'm not too sure if you start Kurt. Do you start Christian Kurt?
No, because my thing is once I feel like, there are, this might be a tough game for the quarterback. To me, that's when you start saying, okay, these other options, they're going to be touchdown dependent. And you can't really bank on that because that's a lot of, that's really up in the air. And, like I said, if you have you start Christian Kirk, next thing you know, Evan Ingram might get in the end zone and he gets, 5 catches. But Christian Kirk, he might be 3 and, just maybe getting, a couple moving the chains type catches. And, that may help the team win, but does that really provide you any fantasy value? So sometimes like that, when you think it's going to be an ugly game, you kind of just got to step away and hope and pray you have some other options that you can use.
Right, and I would almost go as far as saying I think Will Levis might have a better fantasy game than Trevor Lawrence in this matchup. Is so maybe that's a sneaky little play. It'd be a little sleeper on the side start there
Absolutely.
for you, Will Levis. So do you have any more quarterbacks you're starting or sitting here?
So another, like I said, I kind of got some stuff in groups where like, hey, I want a piece of this offense. And so another offense that you'll probably, so when we get to our the next level of our starts, before we get there, Sam Howell's playing the Giants. Sam Howell's been airing it out. Giants are looking terrible. Hey, I feel like this is going to be a really good game for that Commanders offense to put up a whole bunch of points. So you
Hey,
definitely want to get a piece of Sam Howell in this game if you can.
shout out to EB, man. Shout out to EB. Having his boy play like almost like the number one quarterback as far as passing the ball in the
Yeah.
league. He's number one in pass yards. He's QB3 of the year in PPR, which is pretty damn good. He's been pretty consistent. I think he's going to destroy the Giants. So
this is going to be one of those ugly ones, and it's just going to be like, hey, stat those, get those stats, have some fun. Let's get out of here safe and sound, and let's embarrass a divisional opponent.
There's one more guy I really like, and he's playing against a team that has been having some recent success defensively in the Denver Broncos, but Josh Dobbs, ride that magic out because I think he's going to have another magical game. And Denver, they had some good recent success defensively.
Yeah,
I think this might be a game where they might go back to their old ways, and Dobbs might have his way because he's an improviser. He likes to, throw on the run, make plays happen with his feet, run outside the pocket, and do all this stuff. And I think it's a recipe for success when it comes to fantasy. So Josh Dobbs,
look, I'm not betting against Josh Dobbs anymore, man. Hey, he's made a believer out of me. Hey, he set himself up for at least about 5-6 more years of NFL checks. So I like to see it.
Yeah, that's true right there. So my next start, and it's going to be a running back here, and he balled out last week. Devin Singletary, give it to me again. 30 rushes for over 150 yards last week, and I think he had a TD. I think he's playing against. Let's see who he's playing against this week again. He's playing against Arizona, which is one of the worst run defenses in the league. That's what I had over here earlier today. Rushing yards.
Yeah, and I think
they're on the bottom.
Yeah, I think with Miles Sanders, that the Texans, their run game was atrocious, and it was a get right game that they had against the Bengals. They were one of the worst rushing teams in the league and came in, and Devin Singletary had a career day. And I think they're going to take that confidence and be able to use some of the things that they used against the Bengals. I think Bobby Slowick is going to, kind of take some of those same concepts and see if they can get them against Arizona. And, with it being Arizona, I think that they will be able to find some success. So I think Devin Singletary, he'll be able to kind of take that lead. And I'm not sure if Dameon Pierce is going to be able to come back this week either. So, he might be getting the bulk of those carries and really really shine in this week's matchup.
I honestly think it's Singletary's job to lose now. I think he is the lead back now. He fits that offense better. It sucks because I like Dameon Pierce a lot. But, new regime here. Obviously, I don't think he quite fits the scheme as much as Singletary does. So, I mean, I think it's Singletary's job to lose, So
right.
I think they're going to keep riding the hot hand,
100%, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially if, like I said, if you've been having trouble running the ball all season, hey, who's working? Whatever works, let's do it, because now they're stepping into a situation where they can be competing for a playoff spot. So, hey, no time for feelings, no time to feel like, hey, I was the lead back. Hey, you got to prove it now. Devin Singletary came out, had a really good game, and led them to a win. Now it's your turn.
Right. And who's your running back start of the week?
So, like I said, hey, I'm trying to get parts of these offenses. So the first one that I'm gonna go with right now is right with my quarterback, David Montgomery. He came back. It seems like every single time he's coming back from injury, I've learned my lesson. Hey, no more just trying to wait and see how they utilize him. Soon as he's available, put him in your starting lineup because guess what? Dan Campbell is going to feed him the ball. So hey, put
Right.
him in your lineup. You gotta show me that they want to start using Jahmyr Gibbs as the lead back before I start tempering my expectations with David Montgomery. I had him on the bench, so I had him on the bench in one of my leagues. Won't do it again. If he's healthy, he's starting because that offensive line he's running behind is amazing. And so, especially going against this Bears team, like we said, that front four that they have is going to be suspect. So those boys, Frank Ragnow, Penny Sewell, all of them, they're going to push on them and they're going to run the ball, and then they're going to work that play action right behind Jared Goff.
If you had a pick between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, who are you picking?
David Montgomery, because I feel David Montgomery is going to get the majority of the catches, and I do think David Montgomery still will get some use in the passing game, and so with if you're in a PPR league, even if you get 3 or 4 catches from David Montgomery, that's an automatic couple points there, and then we know at the goal line who's getting the ball. It's going to be David Montgomery, and so most of the time if Jahmyr Gibbs is going to score, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to score from a little bit out. But I'd much rather take my chances of having somebody who's going to get the bulk of the carries, and then on the 1 yard line, he's going to be the one that gets the ball.
Yeah, I agree actually, and I almost was on the fence of sitting Jahmyr Gibbs this game, and because Chicago is actually a pretty good run defense. Their last 3 has been a little shaky, but overall throughout the season they have been pretty good run defensively. I don't think that will affect David Montgomery because to me, I think David Montgomery has been one of the best running backs, if not the best running back, if it wasn't for the injury in the NFL this year, in my opinion. Um, you know,
Yeah,
he might have been RB1 if he never gets hurt.
Yeah, definitely, because the way that they were utilizing him, he was getting those touches. And, like Hill said, last week they showed that they could utilize both. But when it comes to the utilization, I just feel like the consistent play is going to be from David Montgomery. Jahmyr is going to he's going to have those breaks. He's going to have those, big plays. And he's going to get some, pass game production. And he's going to he's going to get his touches. But I just think if you're just looking for that consistent, power and those points, I think that's where you go with David Montgomery. And then against this Bears team, I think it'll be good for him because I think this offense is going to be rolling.
For sure, and I agree. And Justin Fields might come back. You think he is coming back, huh?
Yeah,
Justin Fields?
he'll be starting. This will be his first game back.
First game back. So it could be a either a blowout or just could be a close game. We'll see on that one. I think it could go either way. So my running back sit of the week here, and he's a guy that has been pretty solid over the last few weeks. Rachaad White. So I'm sitting him because he is playing against San Francisco, obviously.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's hard to run against San Fran, especially with Chase Young. He's looking like a perfect fit. He didn't look like that with Washington the past 2 years. So I mean, and you're seeing that San Francisco's pass defense looked a little better against Jacksonville. Although I know Jacksonville, Trevor's been struggling. They did look better. So I think this is a game where 49ers roll, and I don't think White gets nearly as many points as he's been getting, 17, 27, 17, 15. I think you're looking at a game where you'd be lucky to get 10 fantasy points here out of White just because you're going up against a 49ers defense at San Francisco. So, I mean, that's just going to be a hard,
100%.
it's just hard to perform, in my opinion.
Yeah. I like that because it's definitely going to be tough. It's going to be tough to get those yards. And I feel like San Francisco, they're playing pissed off right now, so they're definitely gonna, try and make some statements. And the addition of Chase Young, he is a really good run stopper. He gets the glory as people see him as the pass rusher, but he is a very, very solid run stopper. So I think that just adds to that defensive line depth that they have. So it's going to be tough for Tampa to do anything, to be quite honest. So getting the run game going is going to be tough. And I think, eventually once they get behind, they're going to abandon it anyway. My sit is someone that he almost got sit on his own, that like in real life, and that's James Cook. I think James Cook is going to have, like, they're going against the Jets. And I think that Jets defense is going to give the Buffalo Bills offensive line hell. It's going to be it's going to be tough. He may get some pass game production, but I just don't think it's going to be enough for someone just be like, hey, I want to you're going to ride or die, especially when they're getting so close to the playoffs. This is the time where you kind of got to be perfect, and some of those maybes, it's going to be tough. The only way you should have James Cook in your lineup is if you have no other options. If you feel like you have some other options, or that could provide you a more advantageous matchup, I would say try it.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious of see how this Joe Brady led offense now, with him being the interim OC now, no more Ken Dorsey. So I wonder if that's going to have any effect on James Cook as far as running the ball. Because to me, Joe Brady, I don't think he's going to do too much different systematic wise. But as far as play calling, the guy likes to pass the ball.
Yep.
So I mean, there's only one outcome. I think James Cook gets his points, and that's through the passing game, like you just said. I don't think he's going to get it on the ground. It's going to be a tough game, and the Jets normally have the Bills' number the last few years. So I mean, week one, James Cook, only mustered out 10 points, fantasy points that game. Let's see, 12 for 46 yards, only 4 receptions, 17 yards against the Jets week one. So, I mean, I think that's a valid sit there. Man, the Bills, Josh Allen is still fantasy relevant.
I mean, of course, with
Obviously,
his ability to move outside the pocket, Josh Allen is always going to be fantasy relevant. But I just think
he's QB1. I didn't even
right.
know that.
Yeah, so he's always going to be fantasy relevant. And you actually look at some of like the actual numbers, they have one of the best offenses, like, per the analytics, but sometimes it's just not actually, giving you the outcome that you want, game to game. And that's why they're a 500 team right now. So I think, yeah, their highs are very high, but their lows just come at, the most inopportune times, and it really costs them games. And so I think this is going to be tough. And that's why I think James Cook, especially against that New York Jets defense, it's going to be tough, because we've seen what the Jets defense can do, even, in that game that they lost Aaron Rodgers, and they still were able to pull it out. I think, the Bills, may have a different outcome, but just offensively, I don't see this one being the one for James Cook.
It's going to be a tough game, too, because the Jets are going to play like nothing to lose, because, they got to win, so.
Yeah, every game's a must win for them, and they're still playing with house money, because they ain't supposed to be this far without Aaron Rodgers.
Right. So number 3, and then this is my wide receiver start of the week, Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
That's the guy I'm looking at. I think he's gonna have a field day against Tampa. I think he might be, if not the best wide receiver in fantasy this week, he will at least be top 3. I know I'm going heavy on these takes here, but I'm pretty confident in that. Brandon Ayuk has been has a rapport with Purdy all year. It seems like Purdy, that's his favorite target as well. He loves him some Brandon Ayuk. So you go against Tampa, you're at home, you just came off a beating you beat down Jacksonville, which was a better team than Tampa, and we thought Jacksonville was going to be, a team to be reckoned with here. You know, I think Brandon Ayuk goes off, and that's going to be my wide receiver start of the week.
So I'm gonna go down the list a little bit because sometimes at this point in the season, sometimes you got to start getting creative. And so my start is actually gonna be Rashee Rice. I think this is
Mm.
gonna be a good week for Rashee Rice, even though you look at the matchup and you look at the Eagles defense and kind of things that they've been doing. I think this is a good week for Rashee Rice to kind of, get some of those, catches in bulk. So I think he's gonna get a lot of volume catches, moving around, coming in the slot, playing across the middle, opposite Travis Kelce. So I think this is going to be a good, production week for Rashee Rice. So he's my start of the week. And, I think, if I don't know if he'd be available in a lot of your leagues, but if he happens to be available in your league, I think, especially with this matchup, people might be dropping him off of their rosters, trying to get other people in, depending on if you have IR spots or whatever. So I think this is a time, to try and scoop up Rashee Rice and see if you can get, a high upside play here.
For sure, and there's been wide receivers all year that's been balling against Philadelphia. The Commanders did it twice with McLaurin, and
Yep,
I don't know if Dotson did anything against him, but I know
he did.
McLaurin did. So Philly is a defense, and Scrap will tell you Philly is a defense that will get passed on. So
Yeah, definitely.
I like that pick a lot. Rashee Rice. That's gonna be a good game. Chiefs and Eagles. That's gonna be a really good game.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
So go ahead.
I was gonna say, so for my sit, I'm gonna go with based off the matchup again, and just a very difficult defense. We might be going. I see it in your eyes. We might be going in the same direction, but I'm going George Pickens.
Oh no, okay,
Okay,
no.
yeah, I'm going.
Okay.
I'm going George Pickens, man. Even though Deshaun Watson is out for the season, and the Browns may be hurting offensively, defensively, that they're still tough. They're still, I'd say, probably the best defense in the league. And with George Pickens' skill set not being much of a separator, but more of a jump ball and possession kind of guy, I think he's gonna have fits going up against that Brown secondary. So George Pickens got to sit on the bench for this one, dog.
I was just so close to being putting him on my sit list as well. I think that's a good choice there. I'm sitting him against Cleveland for sure. I
Right.
mean, and I don't think he did. Deontay Johnson, in my opinion, has been the better wide receiver in the last 3 weeks. I mean,
He's the better wide receiver in general.
for sure because he can line up in more places than Pickens. He could be moved around. So, I was going to pick Adam Thielen here. Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
And this is a guy, and this is a high profile guy this year since he's been balling in fantasy. Did not expect it. I didn't think he still had it in him. But, there's nowhere else to go to. Poor Bryce Young. But Adam Thielen going against, one of the best pass defenses, even without Trayvon Diggs, in the Dallas Cowboys this week. And I think Adam Thielen is a guy that would probably not do that much. You look at completions, the completion percentage. Dallas is ranked somewhere in the top 5. I want to say, let's look right here. Completion percentage here. Dallas is number 5. So I don't think he's going to get that much receptions. And I think the yardage is going to back that up as well. So it's going to be a hard game for Adam Thielen. It's going to be a hard game for Bryce Young. It could be ugly for Carolina.
It ain't no could. I think it's gonna be ugly. I don't foresee them putting up a whole bunch of points, and I think this is gonna be a tough one. And hopefully, this is just a way that Carolina can give some experience and yeah, but their outside receiving threats, they're just really non-existent. If Adam Thielen in 2023 is your number one guy, you're in trouble. So I don't see much in their favor this week, to
I
be quite honest.
agree. And I did left out one running back. I was gonna say I was gonna sit Isaiah Pacheco.
Oh yeah.
I did leave him out, and I was gonna sit him against Philly. Uh, so wide receiver wise, do you have any other wide receivers?
Wide receiver wise, not really. Because some of the matchups are just a little bit funky. I almost, went Jalen Waddle because he's just been so up and down, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So I kind of just stood away from that one. I just felt like, let me not do that because I just, I felt like that could be one of those ones that'll blow up in your face. You say, hey, sit Jalen Waddle, and the next thing you know, he goes for 225 and 2 touchdowns, and then you looking like an asshole.
Right, Jalen Waddle, he is that type of player. It's either make or break, and when he makes it, he looks like one of the better wide receivers in the league. So I mean, it you are playing you know a fine line there when you are deciding to sit Jalen Waddle. You know, but I would have went with George Pickens, like you said. I think that was an excellent choice. You know, I was kind of debating DJ Moore here. I don't
Yeah,
know if how Justin Fields returning is going to affect. Uh, Same thing with Amari Cooper. With no
yeah,
Watson, he's like his best connection has been with Watson. I think he's only had one game where he really did well with another quarterback in PJ Walker. So those two guys, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Did I really start those two? I don't know.
yeah. What do you feel about Tyler Lockett going up against the Rams this week? Because he was another one that I waffle with back and forth because Tyler Lockett, every season you look up at the end of the season, you're like, damn, his numbers look great, but sometimes he just has those dips in his performance, and it's a divisional game. We're not, Aaron Donald's still there. We're not sure how Gino's gonna play because so. What do you feel about Tyler Lockett? Would you start Tyler Lockett or would you sit him?
I'm starting him over DK Metcalf.
Okay.
I almost was this close in putting him on my list as starting, just because the last three games the LA Rams has allowed a 75% completion percentage, and Tyler Lockett is about them receptions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Short field. Um, you know, the only thing I couldn't put him on my start list. It's just I don't know. It was just something inside me. I was like, do I really want to put Tyler Lockett? Because when you look at Tyler Lockett, he never goes off. He'll have good fantasy games, but he never goes off. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I don't. I don't want to put Tyler Lockett in my starting. Now I'm starting him over DK. You
I
know,
can
that, that-
respect that. I can
you
respect
know,
that. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
um yeah, I mean, we can go ahead and go to tight ends. Oh, Romeo Dobbs is another one. Romeo
Okay.
Dobbs, especially Watson being questionable here. I have Jordan Love as my quarterback of the week. So Romeo Dobbs could be another good start there. Or Jalen Reed. Jalen Reed, he
Yeah,
had a good game last week.
definitely.
So either one of those two. But tight end wise, so you want to go first with the tight ends?
Yep. I want to go first because I hope Hill is here still because you had Dak Prescott on your sit list against the Carolina Panthers. But because I think Dak Prescott is going to have a good game, to me,
Mm,
this is the week you got to start Jake Ferguson. Put Jake Ferguson in your lineup. We know Dak loves the tight ends. So you got Jake Ferguson in your lineup. This is a way for you to maximize that spot because I think he's going to have a really, really good game.
It's funny that you said that because I actually have Jake Ferguson as my sit here for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm starting two Cowboys. I mean, I'm sitting two Cowboys this week. I don't know how Hill would feel about that, but I'm sitting Dak and I'm sitting Jake just because Carolina has been one of the better, I would say, top 20 defenses against tight ends as far as receptions, and yards. So I think this is a game where, I don't think Jake Ferguson has like a bomb of a game. I think he just has a vanilla type game, maybe 3 receptions, 30 yards. I think you get by with Jake Ferguson if you get a red zone touchdown. I think that's your saving grace with Jake Ferguson. I don't think you get what you saw last week. You
So
know,
I mean, I understand. Like, so last week, he had, the 4 catches, touchdown. He didn't have a bunch of yardage production, but because of this matchup with the Panthers, like, I think he's gonna be able to pull in a lot of those receptions. Jake Ferguson, I think he has like what? I think like 6 games over 7 targets. And so, even in that Eagles game where, you look at their defense and you look at it a little bit, as a little bit more tougher challenge than you would on the Panthers, he ended up pulling in 7 of those catches, a touchdown, you know, and almost 100 yards. I'm not saying he's going to get 100 yards, but I think he's going to be targeted a lot. I think he's going to be able to pull in a lot more of those targets than normal. So I think that this is going to be a good game for Jake Ferguson, especially with CeeDee Lamb getting all the attention. So I think Jake Ferguson will end up being that second option.
I do think you got a point there, and you were right. He had 7 targets, caught 4 of them last week. Had 10 targets the week before that with 7 receptions against Philly. So I mean, I get it. I mean, I think this is a game that could get ugly. So I mean, I get it. It could be a blowout, and that's how they would get their points. I think it's gonna be a Tony Pollard game for sure.
He
So I
needs
mean,
one. He needs a get right game.
he does. Tony Pollard, for sure. Brandon Cooks, he had a good game last week as well,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. They were able to start utilizing him.
Yeah, he could be a little sleeper start as well. I didn't even think about him. He had 32 points last week. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So I mean, Nate, Brandon Cooks. So my tight end start. We already know my sit, right? So my tight end start. He had a good week last week, and I think he's gonna have another. Hill says bench TP till further notice.
Yeah,
Tony Pollard.
Tony
Wow.
Pollard. Yeah, because like I said, this is going to be one. This has to be that get right game for Tony Pollard.
Wow.
It's really been tough all season. So you would hope for him to kind of show signs of life. You want that this game. Excuse me.
Well, let's actually talk about that for a second because I'm looking at opponents' yards. So it looks like Carolina's 26th of the year. Let's see, last 3. The last 3 games, Carolina's been they only been like 15th the last 3
Yeah.
games in rushing defense. So I mean, sit Tony Pollard. I don't know about that. I'm starting Tony Pollard. I don't know. I'm starting Tony Pollard. I'm not sitting Tony Pollard. I think this is gonna be a Tony Pollard game. But I mean, let's see. He had 5, 9, 6 points. I didn't realize he was struggling that much. But
Yeah, it's been a rough fantasy year for Tony Pollard owners. He hasn't had those big explosive plays that we're used to, hasn't had the big, a lot of the big breakaways that you wanted in the passing game. So it's been tough for Tony Pollard owners right now. So yeah, I'm with Hill. Sit Tony Pollard until further notice. But I believe a lot of times if Tony Pollard is on your team, that means he was one of your high draft picks. And sometimes you just gotta dance with the girl you came with.
absolutely, always stick with the OG.
He said Hill says he is allergic to the end zone, and that is not what you want.
It's definitely in fantasy. You never want that. You never want that at all. You do keep seeing Rico Dial keep getting more carries each week as well. So I
Yeah.
have noticed from watching Cowboys game that Rico Dial has been getting more carries. They really need to give my boy Deuce Vaughn some carries, but that's another topic for another day. Tight end start of the week, Dalton Kincaid. I think it's a safe pick. I think he has another good week here. going up against the Jets. We were talking about how it's going to be a tough game. No James Cook. I don't think Gabe Davis is going to do anything. They're going to be focusing on Diggs. So Josh Allen's going to need an outlet. You know, he may throw a couple picks here and there, but Dalton Kincaid, he's going to be my start of the week. Last week he had 16 before that. So, I mean, he's been averaging about 7 to 8 targets the last 4 games. So I think it's safe to say he's one of the main receivers in that offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my start for this week, I think it's actually going to be. This is one of those daily fantasy ones. It's just an easy start. Get your easy points. Get them on in your daily fantasy lineup. Mark Andrews. If you got Mark Andrews, start him. He's going up against the Bengals. You saw what the Texans did to him. That defense last week. Lamar Jackson, I believe, is like 7-1 against the Bengals in his career.
Wow, I didn't know that.
We've notorious. Hey, when Lamar Jackson is healthy, the Ravens don't lose. And so, one of the players that always kills the Bengals is tight ends. And Mark Andrews is no different. He's gonna find the soft spots in the zones. He's gonna find the end zone. So you're gonna be safe there. So to me, I just think Mark Andrews is a really safe play. You might mess around and get 5-6 catches, 40, 50 yards and a touchdown. You can't ask for much more when it comes from tight end production for that. So to me, if you have Mark Andrews, get him in your lineup. He shouldn't be out of your lineup anyway, but make sure he stays in your lineup.
For sure. Tight end 3 of the year. I know he had a rocky fantasy game last week, and I know that might be putting some doubt in some people's mind, but I agree. You can't sit Mark Andrews.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, a no-brainer. Dude's a beast. Start.
Yeah, that's just a little bonus one. Just a little bonus one since we already starting. Jake Berg, Jake Berg gonna get you, your 15 points this week.
Jake Berg, Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid, start him. Hey, no, sit Jake Berg.
No, we gonna have to figure out a little friendly wager on that one. No money involved, but just a little friendly one because I think I'm gonna come out on the positive end on that one.
Okay, well we'll do that. We'll say you want to do like an over under on that one, maybe like 10 points, maybe 10 points.
Yeah, so over under 10.5 for Jake Ferguson.
Okay, cool. We'll do that for sure. We'll come back and we'll definitely put that on the next episode next week. Hey, one more tight end.
Write it down.
But write it down. One more tight end here. Nobody's gonna talk about this dude. Dallas Goedert is out, right?
Yeah.
So next guy up, Jake Stoll. And I think you're looking at. I think they play the Chiefs, right? So
yes, the Chiefs.
The second worst defense against tight ends. So, I mean, as far as yardage and receptions, they're also the second worst team against tight ends. So I think this is a game where Jake Stoll can be very underrated, under the radar type of deal. If you need a tight end, maybe stream them. Hey, sleeper. So
I like it. I might have to. I'm going to write that one down because we will revisit that one because I like that one. I'll make sure to give you your props on that one later on.
For sure. All right, some defenses. I know you said you had a defense in store. What defense are you starting this week?
The Commanders. The Commanders. They're going against Tommy DeVito. Everybody, hey, look, it's a buffet. It's a parade in my city. Yeah. Hey,
parade in my city.
They're gonna be getting turnovers. They're gonna get sacks. They're gonna get tackles for loss, and they probably not gonna give up a whole bunch of points. That is all you want when it comes to a defense. They're gonna get you your points. I would be surprised if they come off of that 10 spot that you start the game with. I think that they're gonna be that productive.
I think that's a good choice. I mean, you're right. They're playing Tommy DeVito. Like, I don't know if this man was even good in college. At Syracuse.
He wasn't. He wasn't.
I
He
don't know how
wasn't.
this man's on an NFL roster. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, start your Commanders. Even though the Commanders have been low key garbage,
It's Tommy DeVito.
it's Tommy DeVito. That's what makes this pick a little special here. Tommy DeVito. It's the Tommy DeVito game here. So my defense. I'm scrolling here. I didn't pick a defense. I don't know why I didn't. Uh, you know, if I had to pick a defense this week, you already picked the Commanders. I'm not going to pick the Commanders. I'm looking, and I might just pick. I might just pick the Dallas Cowboys. Just go with the safe. Just start your Dallas Cowboys against the Carolina Panthers. I mean, what more can you ask?
Yeah.
I think this is a game where they're going to have a monster game interception wise. I think this might be one of Bryce Young's worst game of the year, and it sucks to say that because I like Bryce Young, and I hope he has a good. Well, not as a Saints fan, but I don't want him to fail too much because I do like him as a player. I like him as a prospect, but I think he's going to struggle with this game. And I think start your Cowboys just like you would start your Mark Andrews.
Yeah, and I think this week is actually going to provide a lot of good defensive play just based off the matchups because, like you said, you got Dallas going up against Carolina. We've already talked about how Cleveland is going up against Pittsburgh, and we think it's going to, be tough for Pittsburgh. And then, we've mentioned San Francisco against the Buccaneers, but also Baltimore versus the Bengals. That defense has, notoriously given the Bengals hell. Even when Lamar Jackson has been hurt, Mike McDonald, he's, not what McDonald, whatever his name is. I can't remember. Yeah, it is Mike McDonald. I was about to say McDaniel, but Mike McDonald, he's been giving Joe Burrow hell, and he's like Joe Burrow has actually been candid about how tough that defense is. And then you take away T. Higgins and the inability to really, maintain a running game. I think the Ravens are going to make things difficult for the Cincinnati Bengals. So,
no T. Higgins, huh?
Yeah, T. Higgins, he's been ruled out. And it's just a short week. Jamar Chase is still kind of dealing with the sore back. So it's good. It's going to be tough. So, like I said, if you got Baltimore, go ahead and get them in that lineup.
Would you put any stock into Tyler Boyd?
I think Tyler Boyd will be able to have a solid game. I just don't know if it's going to be enough, similar to last week where he had a lot of targets and stuff, because I think with this game it may be Tyler Boyd but just a lot of dump offs, and I don't know if that's going to be something that is going to be very sustainable.
Right.
Because I think there will be better options out there for you based off of some of these matchups where you can get probably a good wide receiver 3 to go in your flex over Tyler Boyd.
Hey, yeah, we'll see. I mean, division game, Ravens Bengals. You said it earlier, Ravens 7-1 against
not the Ravens. It's just Lamar Jackson, because when Lamar Jackson
Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Okay.
Jackson
Lamar Jackson 7-1. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, man. Hey, I think we had a good show here. You wrote down Jack Stoll and you wrote down over and under on Jake Ferg 10.5.
Yes,
we're gonna revisit that next week. We might get you on the show with Scrap next week. How about that?
Okay. Yeah, we could work that out, man.
We'll work that out. Look, there's no crying in fantasy. I'm glad to have you on, AJ. It was a good show, and we'll catch you on next week.
Later.